welcome to the SpeakIn podcast. I'm Ananya from SpeakIn, Asia's largest digital learning platform for professional growth through one-on-one coaching and group learning sessions. In today's episode, we have a distinguished leader from Indonesia who will share their personal corporate journey, insights on leadership, and more. Our guest today is Nanang Chalid. Nanang is a distinguished 20-year career in human resources known for building high-performing HR ecosystems. He has held leadership roles at Tokopedia and Unilever, driving organizational transform, enhancing employee experience, and integrating digital innovation. Nanang is celebrated for his strategic vision and practical insights, recognized as an HR icon in Southeast Asia for 2023 and Indonesia in 2024. Currently, he leads the post-M&A integration of Tokopedia into ByteDance. His core competencies include scaling organizations, developing comprehensive HR ecosystems, and cultivating high-trust, high-performing cultures. Truly is an honor to be speaking to you today, sir, and thank you for being there on the podcast.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Ananya. Thank you also for speaking, for having me. Really happy to be here.
Welcome, sir. To begin with, why do you think the HR role is becoming more and more important moving forward?
Yeah. So again, I think if I reflect back on the years I've been through, so I started my career in 2004. So in 2024, it's actually 20th anniversary in a way. And I think if I look back, most of the time, I think the degree of or the rate of changes that's happening in the world we live in uh, never been any faster at the scale that we are actually in today, right? If you look at throughout so many dimensions of life, I mean, there's just so many black swan, we call it. There is this terms called black swan, so something unexpected, something that you thought it will never happen, but it happens, and it ranged from the emergence of war. I mean, like, who would expect in 21st century we still have two big wars happening in the world, right? And climate changes that actually still become challenge everywhere, and what have you. And I think being in tech, because I've been working in the tech industry for the last 5 years, a lot of leaders who work in the technology sector was not like we like literally bumped into a black swan when we faced tech winter. Now probably entering year 3, right? So again, I came from um, Indonesia, where the technology startups was rising as a sector back in 2017, 18, 19. When again, I came from Tokopedia, where we at one point in time joined with the on-demand services company called Gojek. We formed one of a kind ecosystem for consumer tech because it's end to end. So it's from on-demand to marketplace to financial services. And we never thought that there would be a global, uncertainty coming right over the horizon in 2022, because we actually planned for an IPO in 2022, right? And again, the whole uncertainty makes the IPO of the GoTo entity back then in 2022 was not as sunny and bright as everyone forecasts. Like, everybody has their own reports, analysis, statistics that saying that GoTo as a company will just be flying, right? If let's say the whole elements of the tech investment is in the economics language called ceteris paribus, mean it's all stays, right? But that's not how life is. So that's an example of whatever the certainty that you ever had and hold at one point in time can, in a snap, it's disappear and gone, right? And I think that's where talent and leaders become important, because without the right talent, without the right leaders, you could actually bring your organization responding to this internal dynamics and external competitive landscape that just so fast with a probably not the best decision or not the best choice of, or options of of response, right? And I think that's where HR actually hold a very unique place for almost in in the last 5 or 10 years, just like during the pandemic. Actually, we are the lighthouse that keeps the storm under control, right? Because HR can actually be the one who coach leaders not to be panicking. Like, can we do a step back? If you don't have the answers, be humble. Let's have a team or leadership workshops to actually put all the problem statement that we have and try to solve it. So I think the role of head of HR in so many companies today, I'm sure, and I'm not speaking just for myself, but for a lot of HR leaders out there, is really to become the the one who guards the organizations to be to survive and thrive. Yeah, in responding to this whole uncertainty because the accelerated rate of change that's happening in today's world. Yeah.
Truly so, very interesting, and lots to come in the near future as well. Moving forward, what are some of the most important lessons you have learned in your HR career, and how do you continue to grow and evolve as a leader?
Yeah. So I think in that context, right? I think again, if I look back on the last 5 years, just in technology sector, because it's really a roller coaster in a way. Because one day it's summer, and then suddenly, without any warning, suddenly you are waking up and it's winter, right? Like it never happens before. Usually in life, when you are in a summer period, then winter is coming and you prepare, right? But that's not the case. So like I said, I think 2020 we had pandemic that really hit us, and a lot of companies are struggling, and HR needs to take the lead. So the same thing when, again, in technology sector, when winter came without any warnings at all, then HR also needs to step up and basically trying to bring leaders in a space where you respond and and plan properly, not actually responding reactively to all these challenges, right? So I think what I've learned is that one, uh, a lot of companies are, of course, if you ask, the number one priorities of HR is about building a high performing organizations, right? So then organization can actually achieve their business goals or impact goals if this is non-profit, for example. And hence you grow, and then with growth, then you become actually organization that can long lasting, right? Like sustainable growth as a vision. So building that high performing organization can be done through so many ways, however. And what I've seen is that the one that managed to undergone, no matter how big the storms are, I mean, Tokopedia is one, in my view, because we've literally undergone whatever scenario you ever imagine as a company. At one point, we were one that acquiring company. At one point, we actually uh, performing a mergers of people. And now we are at one point, we are now being acquired, right? So in 5 years, you are running three different corporate actions, and it's all big corporate actions. But the leaders within the Tokopedia, again, I'm proud and I'm also honored being on the battlefield with them. We managed to actually undergo all these difficult transitions as one team. And the reason why I think it's successful because we have been building those high performance organization under the foundation of trust. So I think trust is the currency that I think HR needs to remind ourselves again that that's basically is your success factor. I mean, if you're a finance professional, then you would have your P&L, like your top line, bottom line as your key success metrics, right? If you are a salesperson, then you talk about growth, percentage growth of your sales. But I think if you're an HR, it's really that trust, whether you can keep trust intact regardless whatever happened in the organization. I think that is the most important job in HR. And I want, again, in this opportunity, I want to remind all HR colleagues out there and HR leaders out there to be to keep that faith that if you build trust as the foundation of your high performing organizations, then it is the right strategy. So I think that's one really really stick and holding on trust, and then you are the safeguard, like you are a guardian of trust, right? I think that's the role of HR. Now I think the second one, however, is that you don't build trust yourself alone as a function, right? So you need leaders to actually be together with you, building those high trust, high performing team, right? And I think developing the right leaders from within, plus hiring the right leaders from external that strengthen your culture, and at the same time also delivering transformation that you need it will become the like the game changing initiatives or actions that any HR leaders will do in the future, because leaders drives culture, and those culture that's going to drive performance, right? So leaders doesn't actually drive performance directly, they drives it through culture. So I think the second learning that I want to also share here is that wherever you are thinking of appointing new leaders, or be it from within or hiding from external, then always remember that they also will need to carry on the trust building responsibility, so that you don't hold it yourself as an HR leader. It has to be co-owned with business leaders. So I think that's the second one. And I think the third one is that so you have all this responsibility of delivering to your stakeholder value of building high trust, high performing team, but at the same time, you don't also ignore that HR is also about delivering a operational excellence, right, in all the value chain of day-to-day operations, be it recruitment, be it learning and development, be it business partnering, talent and performance management, reward, operations, and then what have you. Now, I think the other one that I'm blessed because I've now being part of a company like Tokopedia, which actually developed a product, and it's a technology product, is the whole mindset that HR is supposed to be a product manager, not a program or process manager. Now, let me tell you what's the difference. So, being a product owner or product manager in a technology company, the only thing that matters is your relevance. Yeah, whether your product is still relevant with what user needs, right? And I think we have, in a way, at one point in time, HR was being compartmentalized into, like 3 different core team. Here is business partners, here is HR services and operation, here is center of excellence, what have you. We tend to be immersed too much into the role, so that we become a little bit process driven, become very silo, and we lost that ability to look at horizontally over the horizon what is actually my leaders needs, right? It's always like my leaders are talking to me, I'm a business partner, your recruitment process is not fast enough, so you know what, recruitment, please do your job better, right? And I think my experience in Tokopedia, when we start to think as a product owner, I actually structure my organization differently. So the organization has a product responsibility within HR, and that's where relevance were continuously revisited, and we never actually be super fanatics into a certain process. Process can actually change because the user would require different solution, right? So again, as a product manager, the only question you have is always, what problem are we trying to solve, right? If that problem is A plus B equals C, then maybe this year the answer will be C. But if a year after it's actually evolved, it's B plus C equals D, you cannot stick, no, it's a C, it's not a D. Let's just stick with the C. And then again, HR, at one point, HR was always admired for protecting your policy because I'm holding the fort. So this is how I am successful. And I think that mindset of becoming a process manager that is always trying to be right needs to change. And again, I think I'm blessed because I have been asked by the CEO and co-founder of Tokopedia to basically tell me, Nana, think like a product manager, don't think like a process manager. So I think that that product mindset helped me a lot being more agile, always revisiting whether my solution is still relevant or not. And if it's not relevant, then let's just change it, right? So I think that's the last point I want to say, Ananya. That's something that not very common actually. Um, HR person being asked to change your mindset, you have to think as a product manager. I think once I did it, and again, I'm asking my team to also do it, the change is just tremendous. And I think I'm very, very happy to experiencing those mindset transformation from being a process manager becoming into a product manager. So that's probably one thing that I can share also, Ananya.
Thank you. So very interesting take on this as well. First time I'm hearing about this too. So definitely our viewers are also going to find this really engaging and interesting. Moving forward to end our conversation today, could you please share a quote or mantra that inspires you and keeps you motivated?
Yeah, there's one quote that I think originally it being made famous by Amazon. It's always day one. I think I think this is some sort of a virtuous circle, and coming back to the loop of my first point that I made today. Uh, in the world where change is constant, where it is no longer happens once a year or once per quarter or even once a month, it actually happens once a week, right? If you don't have that mindset of always day one, it's very difficult to maintain your sanity, right? So I think always day one is a mantra to live, so then you can actually take care of your mental health and well-being, because then you can expect that nothing ever been the same, even in the count of a day, right? Things could change, and yes, it's okay, right? Um, then we just need to be the one who adapts, right? I think that is one mantra that I have keep reminded myself over and over and over again. And again, through the last 5 years of roller coaster, I would say, and navigating so many storms, throughout so many corporate actions that happen in a very short time. Those always the one keep me grounded, keep me uh, objective, and then really detach all the all this attachment on things. Because if, let's say, again, like I said, the product manager mindset also actually helped me with that. If, let's say, the user says, no, this is no longer relevant for me, then we kill the product, right? And then we move on, right? So those are mindset that I think needed by HR. And I think in that sense, to all leaders also, regardless whatever functions you have, either your finance, marketing, CEO, supply chain, right, or any other functions out there. Always the one will help you to be grounded, and then it brings humility back. And I think these days we need to be brave to say, I don't know what I don't know, right? And then we seek for those informations to then problem solve challenges that we have. And I think it's okay not to be okay, right? Again, this is I'm quoting one of a Korean drama title. It's okay not to be okay, right? That if you don't know the answer, then it's okay, right? People will actually appreciate that if you come across being vulnerable and seeking for their help, right? I think a lot of leaders were thinking that there is all this stereotype and expectation of what you need to do as leaders, and you need to be always like a knight with your, like with your armor, and like you have to know all the answers, stand strong, right? And I think most of the time, what I've been through, the only way I can survive all these 5 years over the storm is that I'm choosing to be just a pure human being, right? If I don't know the answers to questions, I simply say, that is a good question. I don't know the answer. Um, what do you think, right? And again, this is a simple interaction as human being, which actually people appreciate, right? Because again, I don't think any single human being at this rate of change would know all the answer on whatever happens within their profession, right? I personally always, raise my hands up and say, I don't know this. Good question. What do you think? You know what? Let me find information, and I'm gonna coming back to you, right? Even internally, sometimes there's just new things changing, new policy pop up here and there. It's impossible to actually pretend that you know everything, right? I think honesty is still the best policy. So I think always the one, um, humility is still the best policy if you wanna just keep yourself being a simple human that interact with other leaders, and they actually appreciate it, instead of you're trying to uh, pretend that you know, and you actually advising the wrong decision or advice, which at this point in time, I think room for error is very difficult to correct, right, with the kind of degree of change that we face. So I think that's probably to close today discussions, Ananya.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your valuable insights and experiences with us today. So much to learn. And it was a pleasure having you on the SpeakIn podcast. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Stay connected with us for more inspiring conversations with Asia's top leaders. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on our social media platforms. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ananya.